all throughout Papua New Guinea and possibly rest of our friends around the Pacific. Welcome again tonight for this special session of Toktok with Peter O'Neill. As you know, this is our regular sort of discussion and talk. We discuss about things that are happening in the country, but today it's a special day. I welcome our Governor Bird, Allan Bird, from the Governor for East Sepik, and of course our opposition's candidate for the Prime Minister's position, as soon as we register our vote of the motion on the vote of no confidence that's going to come up. But welcome. This is
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be on your show.
Thank you. And
do you call it a show? What do you call it?
We just say Toktok.
Okay.
So I think it just gives us an opportunity to discuss some of the things. I thought it was best that we bring Governor into this discussion today about where the country is on many of the issues that we have in the country, and discuss where our economy is traveling, jobs, law and order, all the issues and challenges that we are facing day to day throughout the country. And Governor being our leader, who is going to take us through some of these challenges in the few months that are coming up. I thought it was best for us to start off this discussion. But Governor, thank you for joining us today, and I hope that you will have an engaging, good engagement with our comments that are going to come from our viewers and our friends right throughout the country.
Sure.
There's been hundreds of questions that have come through, and we'll try our best to go through it. Firstly, listen, Governor, you know, we've had some really big challenges in the economy over the past few years. In particular, our economy not doing so well, and a lot of people without jobs, a lot of companies scaling down, a lot of companies shutting down, investor confidence is low. And as you and our colleagues in opposition, we have been discussing this on many occasions. And I'm just wanting to see, what are your views about how we can place ourselves in the alternative policies that we are suggesting to the country about trying to rebuild the economy and give more confidence to the investors who are wanting to come and invest in PNG, despite the fact that we've got a fairly solid resource base. We are not getting the attraction that we want from many of the investors at this particular political climate that we are in our country. So please, just have a quick talk about some of these issues, and we'll try and engage with the friends out there in some of the discussions and the questions that they have put forward.
Sure. Well, thank you, Peter, and again, good evening to all of you participating from around the country and elsewhere. I think the most important thing for any government is to give confidence to those who are willing to invest, whether they be people in country or people outside the country. As you know, you were Prime Minister before, and one of your most important roles is to give people confidence. And you've probably, well, we took part in budget debates over the last couple of years, and you've probably heard me come through consistently on, I think, 2 or 3 budgets now, saying that, you know, we're squeezing out the private sector. And unfortunately, one of the things that I've been worried about for a while is that this particular government seems to think that they can create the jobs, they can float the economy on their own. Now, you and I know that that's not possible.
True.
Because for every, say government puts in 10 kina, well, private sector can come in and put in 50 or 60 kina. And so when we formulate our budgets, and then really, I think Papua New Guineans need to understand that the key driver of government legislation, not so much legislation, but government policy, is the budget. That's why we legislate it. So if you're not directing your budget properly, then of course the private sector is not stupid. They take a look and they realize that, well, you've squeezed them out.
Yes.
So they stand on the sidelines, they just fold their arms and say, all right, you know, we wait for the conditions to change. So, as you know, government has been trying to they're doing quantitative easing. So basically, they're printing money. They're just pushing money into the economy, increasing the money supply. And as they do that, that's pushing up inflation. That's also helping to devalue the kina, as you know, because greater supply of the kina, not enough demand for it. Well, you're going to have downward pressure on exchange rates. So people who want to come and invest, like, obviously there's not a lot of people in Papua New Guinea that can come and invest, say, 100 million or 200 million or 300 million in a particular business. So that sort of investment, that sort of money has to come from outside the country. Now, the problem we have right now in PNG is that if you're a foreign investor and you bring in your money and you invest in Papua New Guinea, in whatever the business is, and you want to create employment for people, and obviously you want to make profit and you want to take your profit out. Now, for the last 4 years, it's been very difficult for people to take their profits out. So the private sector is going to sit there and think, why should I invest my money if I can't take it out when I want to? So this compounds the problem that we have with the government. And given that now, I think the first thing we've got to do is we've got to restore that investor confidence. We've got to say to the investors, look, we're a government that's not going to change the goalpost. Here are the goalposts. We're not going to shift them. We're not going to renegotiate agreements or whatever. If things are there, we're going to honor them. So it's really about, this thing applies to us too. I mean, if you're going to go and start your small PMV business and you want to buy a truck and put it on the road, well, you want to know that the road is going to be good, and you want to know that your customers are going to have the money to pay the PMV fare, and, So it's the same thing for the bigger businesses that want to come in. They want to know that the rules are the same, the rules aren't going to change, and that they're going to make some money. And unfortunately, right now, I think the investor confidence is really at an all-time low.
Yes.
We're hearing companies wanting to pack up and leave, and obviously the recent news to do with, Total. The undercurrents I'm hearing, aside from the official stuff, is that, well, they're worried about the investment climate, and this is again worrying for us, because we want these investments to come as long as they come on our terms, and the terms don't change, because that creates opportunity for us, it creates taxes for us, and a whole host of other things. So I think that's going to be our priority, apart from, of course, law and order, fixing law and order, fixing the energy crisis. I mean, I don't know why it's taken us 5 years now, we still haven't fixed the energy crisis. And we've got to talk to the central bank and figure out what are the issues to do with foreign exchange. How do we make that, a little bit easier to access, and all of those sorts of things. So as you know, it's compounding. When you were PM, things were bad, but not as bad as this. It's actually getting worse.
Yeah.
And so that's where we've got to be concerned.
And one of the things is that, Governor, as you know, is early in Marape's term as Prime Minister and coming into office, he tried to renegotiate many of the big project agreements, the agreements with Papua LNG and Total and Newcrest with Wafi Golpu, and I think one or two of the other smaller projects. When you start changing agreements that governments of a country has signed, that really deflates the investor confidence that's the people wanting to invest in PNG. So just imagine the amount of other businesses that were going to follow Total into the development of Papua LNG 5 years ago. Now they've all pulled back, and now as we've seen that this project has got a lot of uncertainties and further diminishes the investor confidence in the country and about the country itself. And we're just taking it for granted that everything will be all right. I think the government needs to put a team together that is able to rescue the economy of the country and rebuild the investor confidence that is happening. And as you know, I think one of the responsibilities that Marape has now taken over is the issue about the Treasury Ministry. Being Prime Minister is you already busy enough. Taking on added responsibility of Treasury is you are doubling the number of responsibilities that you have, and it is two very serious leadership roles in any government.
Agreed.
And I think the sooner he appoints a treasurer and somebody to take charge of the issues that are on it, you're jumping from currency crisis to fuel crisis to law and order, and all these things require somebody with a sensible head to sit in Treasury and able to guide the government and the Prime Minister in supporting the initiatives that they may find. So, just getting back to that investor confidence is something that you and I know, coming from a sort of a business background.
Yeah.
If the government does not provide stability and stable environment, you can say goodbye to businesses.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And now you see some of the businesses that are trying to shut down in PNG are families who've been in PNG
for a long time.
And they're saying, this is far worse than it has ever been, and they're just trying to pack up, sell all their business, and disappear.
Yep.
And that doesn't give confidence, because, as you correctly stated, we have a situation where only the private sector can grow to create more employment opportunity for people.
Exactly.
Jobs in government is already almost to the full.
Yep. We can't afford it anymore.
We can't afford it anymore. We can't employ anymore. Increase the number of employees in government. So the only growth area I see is the private sector, and I think you and I know that this is an area that any government needs to focus on, giving the confidence that they require. I know that you've done a lot of work around SMEs and agriculture, and how is that developing in the province? As you I know that you've got some very innovative agricultural programs and SME support that is going on back in East Sepik, and that is really changing the income and opportunities for our people there. So how is that going?
Well, it's about building the economic base, as you know. It's an ecosystem, so you need kind of everybody to be participating in the ecosystem. You need a large sort of proportion of them at the bottom. So it's like a pyramid, you hold it up. So like, for example, in Sepik, we're supporting, from the numbers we have, about 128,000 cocoa farmers, about 60,000 vanilla. Vanilla is not doing so well now because of all of the issues, global situation. But what that's doing is it's putting a lot more money in, and that money is circulating. And so it's helping all the other SMEs. Like, for example, if you have a hire car business, well, people have money to pay for to hire a vehicle. Or if you got a trade store, suddenly people have money to come and buy your stock. So it sort of it feeds into it, and it keeps it spinning, if you like. It keeps the engine spinning. Money is, once it's coming in like that, it's kind of like fuel. It just drives everything. So we've got that happening from the rural areas all the way into town. Like, for example, so every weekend in East Sepik, you run out of basic food items like frozen chicken and sausages, and because village people, they're tired of eating smoked fish and all that sort of thing. So they want to change. They come to town, they wipe out all the stuff in town, because that's the way they feel like, okay, me making money now, so we must get good liquor.
Yeah, they get more store goods.
I mean, they're even buying bottled water and taking it to the village now. They're buying diapers and taking it to the village. Things like that. They're no longer washing nappies. So you can see it changing the lifestyle. But at the same time, like, for example, you watch them come in and pay school fees, whatever it is. They're able to. They have more choice now because they have an income, so they can decide, what their children are going to do. They can afford to pay for it, or, many of them go and buy roofing iron, so they build a permanent house, or they buy solar equipment so they can have lights in the village. Things like that. It's beginning to change their lifestyle. And then, of course, you've got those who are sitting further up the chain who have small businesses. Well, their businesses are expanding. I spoke to there was a young man who had a business transporting. He used to move 20-foot containers. He had a truck, so he would move about one container a day between Wewak and Maverick. Now that was in the early days. His business expanded. He's got several trucks now, and so he's moving something like I think it's 6 or 7 containers a day now. So his business is booming, and there's 1 or 2 other new entrants into the trucking business to ship these containers up and down the highway. So obviously, what we've done is to try to build the entire economy, but from the bottom up. Because obviously, Our environment is a little bit different to say Port Moresby or Ley or other places. So you kind of need to work with whatever your environment is. And so for us, we had to build it from the sticks in. So, and then it's helping everybody else along the way. Obviously, we've got power issues and we're struggling to fix roads and all these other things. And you understand that. So this is the thing. We've got to look at what is going to work in different parts of PNG. And we've got to do those things. And it's not going to be a one-size-fits-all.
No.
You know, some provinces are going to have different resources and different skill sets and so on and so forth, different attitudes. So perhaps something else needs to happen there that's going to help drive the economy of those places. But my thinking is that by helping, empowering, I think is the right word, different players all around the country, then you're going to have this groundswell of economic activity that's going to help us all. At the moment, I think it's difficult because you've got difficulties all over the country, and we're all doing different things, and perhaps some are doing well, some are not doing so well. But having some kind of policy, as I said, the key thing, as you know, is to bring in the big foreign investors, whether it be in agriculture, fisheries, forestry, and then to sort of say, look, here's our policy on forestry, we expect you to go downstream, these are the incentives that, we can develop a set of incentives. It's something that I've been asking for a while, for example, because I believe that in forestry we can get 30 or 40,000 jobs really quickly.
Quite easily,
because they're already harvesting the logs. So, we speak to the investors, the developers who are already there, and say, look, what's it going to take you to go downstream? It then adds value, as you know. One log, if we process it, we get 3 times the value. So it's better for the country, it's better for that particular business, and it's better for our people. So looking at these win-win-win situations as opposed to maybe government winning and someone else losing.
Yes.
We can't have that.
Well, government, as you know, in forestry has introduced that 70% log tax, which is killing the industry.
Exactly.
But this is an industry that needs to be protected and employs a lot of Papua New Guineans who are directly employed by these logging companies and, of course, downstream log processing companies around the country. But now they have to lay off people because government has failed to think through the new tax, how it will impact the industry. Yes. And as a result, we're struggling there.
Well, as you know, taxation is important for government, but we need to look beyond just taxing people to sort of collect money so we can spend. We've got to use the tax tools, like, for example, if we're going to give a 70% tax on something because we don't want them to do certain things, so it becomes a punitive taxation arrangement, then we've got to also offer the carrot. Here's the big stick, the 70%, where's the carrot? Here's the carrot, you go down this road because this is where we wanted to go. Well, we didn't think of the carrot.
No.
We just came out with the big stick.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that I see. Unfortunately, you don't have this good policy mix in terms of, like, what do you want to do with your taxation? Okay, Papua New Guineans are calling for tax breaks. All right, well, what does the tax study that happened, I think, under your government, what does it recommend? Can we take a look at that? Are there parts of it that we can adopt? So taking a holistic look from taxes to investor confidence to even the SME, building all of that into the same, ecosystem. Like, all right, what do you want to do with your SMEs? And what's an SME? We haven't really defined that yet.
Whether turnover based or
is it turnover based? Is it number? We haven't done that yet. So, and then there's an argument by Papua New Guineans to say, look, and it's a good argument that we should be reserving this SME space for Papua New Guineans. Okay, let's define what that space is, and then that way it comes back to what you and I have been saying early on. It's about having a set of rules that applies equally to everybody, and those rules don't change.
Yes.
If they are going to change, then there's a process,
proper consultation.
proper consultation, and then it changes. So things like that, and these are things that I see are missing from the Marape government, and it's not like some of us haven't been suggesting them, and you have too. You know, from the opposition during the debates, I've heard you come across and put in some good suggestions, but there's a lack of enthusiasm to, I guess, adopt some of these ideas.
I think because they haven't thought it through. You know, they think that coming from people who've got opposing view is wrong. You know, automatically classified as wrong. But we are making some of the suggestions to, you know, for the betterment of everyone, not only a few individuals that we are in politics, but for the country and all our citizens.
It is our country, and we can. And here's the thing: when we have a debate, and it's a good debate, and useful suggestions are presented, there's no mechanism to pick up that useful debate. You may talk nothing.
I'm forgotten on the day.
And we walk out and it's forgotten, unfortunately. But there are good suggestions that come through, and sometimes I feel it's almost comical when the Prime Minister stands up and says, "Oh, you're an opposition, you know, you people should be, you know, giving us alternative policy advice. Do your job." But the thing is, even
when you do it,
they don't want to take it up.
No.
So it becomes a moot point, really, and which is sad. And this is the thing. And you know, for someone like me, you sit there, you look at it. After a while, you start thinking, okay, something's got to change. It's not working.
And just going back to the tax issue, recently the Black Wednesday came about because of the rebate, the structure that was changed by government. Even today, you know, we've had a session of Parliament session now. They have not changed the law yet.
We haven't changed the law. No, the law is still in force.
So
true.
I don't know why, even if Marape or the Treasurer or whoever else, they have no right to go and defer the implementation of what law has gone through. Now they've just deferred it.
They've just deferred it.
Yeah, so don't apply this law. But all they have to do is go to Parliament and change
repeal it.
Yeah,
that's all you've got to do is repeal it.
So,
I agree.
So it's obvious that people are not thinking through. The desire is to try and raise as much money as possible and then spend as much money as possible.
Yeah. It's just a money-raising, revenue-raising measure. That's all it is. They haven't really thought it through. And I remember when someone asked that question, and I can't remember whether it was the Treasurer or the PM responding. And then he said, look, you know, the rebates, it was only 18 million or something, some silly number like that. And you're thinking, well, why would you want to raise that 18 million in the first place? You've got a 27.4 billion kind of budget. Or what's 18 million? Larry more people hold him, you know, so it was a stupid decision. Removing that rebate.
But it's causing hardship to many
a lot of hardship.
Many of our citizens who are certainly not having enough income to buy goods and services. When cost of living pressures are there, you can see. You know, one other thing that we've suggested was that they review the minimum wages board.
Exactly.
How long would it take someone to organize that meeting to take place?
Well, you and I know, for example, that. And you know, the Prime Minister in his discussion with the IMF, I think just the other day, and it came out in the news, he was saying, look, inflation, we're keeping it at 5%. And I'm thinking to myself, hang on, 5% every year, that's 25% since he became Prime Minister. And that's okay? No, it can't be okay, because 25% basically erodes the buying power of someone who's on $3.50 an hour and everybody else in the middle to low income bracket. Someone is saying you should talk to him. Minta talk to him.
I'm alright too.
Okay, sorry straight. Okay, mipla read the message blimla. Lo talk to him mo sen. Mitla talk lo inflation now. Inflation or sa molan lo IMF will come in now. Toktok Wantaim PM na. You play looking PM talk lo news so alright. We are at 5%, so 5% alright.
Yes.
But 5% means outlaw gonna one kina blue and 5 to am out now, kind of sem. That's what it means. So suppose 5% first year, second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year, you Eddie Mogoda M25 to out now, one kina blue. So that's the net effect. Final effect blue. So Mipla need law working something law in terms of policy blue Mipla law, Rausim at least down him impact belum inflation. So the other thing also, I think Mitubla bin Toktok earlier, Mosem, this la 5% ya, usah dimaki na toko ke em good la benchmark. Treasury lo yumi toko ke em 5% also na, em lo inflation, that's okay. All right, so all get a range only give him come down to okay 2% GDP growth, am all right. Na biyan yung migulo IMF na tokim IMF, okay IMF this level target yung set him lumibla. So time IMF come lugim na to, oh okay, you plan meet him on target blah. But the thing is, these are low targets.
Yeah.
These are not good targets at all. You see, we should be aiming for like a 3% or 2.5% inflation.
Yeah.
Not 5.
But plan the time boleh looking at inflation number, some of the data also seem correct to us.
Yeah, I'm wrong.
Plan the online limits are going to collecting more data to working good work. So true inflation, the real inflation give me no sawe.
It could be 7, 8, 9, 10%.
Now effect blow devaluation now me are also devaluation looking and now you go down also and IMF work pushing this list up. Me one blow strong plus supporter blow IMF. Plan the time Misa argue and the IMF law this lab just policy way also to okay currency must be devalued immediately. Without also thinking law, how affecting line blowing
Ordinary man Mary.
because our country, you may like him or not, we are import dependent yet. You may not produce enough law, you may feed him yet.
Yes.
So plan the keke, you may say keke lento, you may work importing. Time currency go down, you say price work something work go on top. So over the man Mary go store now, you look in this effect law, currency devaluation work come up law. Store now, I'm hitting more man Mary law pocket blow.
Now.
So but government you may not thinking about this land.
Sorry.
Only behind him to talk blow IMF that's IMF come one visit every 3 months or every 6 months na bali go back to Washington. People have established a film hardship every day.
Okay, now people are saying English. So I don't know. We'll have to go. Sorry, look, we'll have to go between English and Pidgin.
Buy me, send him to the
Send. All right. Okay, and this is a good point you make. Like immediately, we should be putting together that minimum wages board, and then we take a look at that because cost of living pressure and big place it was.
And plenty all some money miss all stop the business all the talk. Only it prepare the man higher minimum wages.
Yes.
They can see the hardship that is happening. They prepare to pay more for the workers that they are employing.
Absolutely.
So I see no reason why the government cannot sit down and conduct this meeting immediately and establish a new minimum wages regime.
Well, that's the other thing. I wonder how many face-to-face meetings the government is having with the private sector. I mean, is it a regular thing? When you were PM, for example, how often did you meet with the private sector so that all can give feedback to you now? You can.
There were regular meetings, probably every month or so. There was contact with either the Chamber of Commerce or some of the bigger investors in the country. All those meetings were ongoing all the time, and many of the breakfast meetings that used to take place, they wanted to know where the government's position was on various issues, including currency and where the economy was going, and taxation issues that they were concerned about. It was always a very frank and lively exchanges.
Okay.
I mean, sometimes they will disagree with us, and sometimes we will disagree with them, but it was a respected engagement.
And it was regular.
And it was regular.
Well, the other thing I was going to ask is, since Mitla spending time on the economy, some of the things that impact the economy, energy, electricity. Obviously, we are hearing a lot of things, and I've got my own issues with PNG Power. I've been meeting with Duma, obviously trying to solve my own little problem. People ECP, but it's countrywide now.
Countrywide.
Even Mosby is having regular blackouts now.
Daily now.
Daily now. So, you during the APEC, was it 2019?
Yeah.
There was a commitment of what, 700 million?
1.5 billion US
dollars for us to improve our electricity, so that I remember the target was 70% of our people would have access. Are you aware what's happening with that?
Nothing has happened, and the government has led that program sort of disappear, and now the countries are doing their own thing. They are trying to provide assistance. They're doing their own thing. That doesn't mean that it is going to the right areas. Australia is doing their own thing. United States is doing their own thing. New Zealand and Japan are doing their own thing. They were supposed to pool the money together, 1.5 million, so almost 4 billion kina. Enough, loan and grant.
And we didn't draw it down.
We didn't draw it down. We didn't even engage with them. So now they're doing their own thing, and as a result, it's just a piecemeal approach, disjointed, and unfortunately, we've missed that cue. But I think someone needs to step up and start engaging with these people and say, listen, this is our energy plan for the country. This is how we want to supply power to. Power is very important. A sector that plays an important role in any economy. A reliable power supply will build a strong economy.
And now,
right now, you're looking at blackout close to now. At one stage we had almost 90% reliability in the country.
Yes,
all
we
across
did.
the country.
Yes, we did.
It's not something that we cannot achieve, but you may maintaining all equipment, you may good. You may invest all infrastructure properly. All the transmission lines are old and they're collapsing. All these small things, nobody's taking charge of it. So who's going to come and do it for us? We have to take ownership of these issues and run with it. And I think, firstly, employing competent people.
Well, that goes without saying. Competent people and people with business savvy, so that we make these things work. You may put in too much subsidy, but then if we have to, then we'll be transparent about the process of putting a subsidy in, if it's got to do with power or something else.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that we could do very quickly
Yeah.
if we got into government, is to say, look, all right, there's $1.5 billion worth of commitment sitting there from 2019. For whatever reason, no got money, go inside and pull him come, use him, so we can just re-engage straight away.
Immediately, towns like WeWork and Alatau and all these places where there is standalone grid, it should be given to the provincial government.
Well, we've been, as you know, provinces have been arguing for that for a number of years now.
And they should allow the provinces to run it, and because you are on top of the issues on the ground, you'll manage it better.
Yes.
And you can also bring your partners in there, or somebody who's got experience in this industry, to come and be your partner, so there's reliability on the maintenance of the equipments and infrastructure. So I think government needs to get away about this controlling things in Waigani and controlling things centrally. PNG Power trying to do it from Port Moresby. It doesn't work. We just failed the nation already.
Well, you and I know that, and from some of the questions we've received, and maybe we should talk about that.
Yeah.
The thing with our alternative government group is that we're very adamant about power sharing. More than just, it's not just about block grants. It's not just about each province doing their own thing, but it's really about, and this is why we call it a new deal. It's a new deal, and we must do it, because one plus something, every province is different.
Yes.
And we need to respect that. And that difference should not be seen as a disadvantage. We should see it as an advantage. All right. So let's support the provinces to do their own thing. Like the issues in Manus are very different to the issues in, say, East or West Sepik, even though we might be neighbors. Same in Medang and elsewhere. So our argument has really been about, and we just had a discussion around power. See, I get blamed for the power problems in East Sepik. And then I have to come here and talk to Minister Duma, and I have to talk to the CEO of Humul Holdings and PNG Power and everybody. But the problem is in WeWork. Yeah. So people in WeWork want it solved. And they don't care who solves it. And I guess the people in Milne Bay are the same. People in Manus, people in Mosby. You've got power problems here in Mosby. People in Mosby want to see this change. So how do we change it? You need to break it up so the individuals are looking at the problem. And they're coming in with local solutions to fix the problems.
And you take ownership of the issues.
You take ownership.
Right now, there's too much buck passing at the moment. And everybody's blaming someone else. And there's enough of the blame game going on. We just need to take ownership and say, listen, fix it. And the solutions are there.
Absolutely. And then it comes back to the block grant issue. Well, how is a block grant going to work? Let me give you an example, and I like to use the Central Province example simply because it's near Port Moresby. And you can see the huge difference in development of Central Province and NCD. Massive difference. So how do you close the gap between the two? If you gave Central Province a block grant, for example, and right now people in Mosby will understand this, people in Central Province and Gulf will understand this. If you're looking for hospital space, everybody in Central Province and Gulf Province, they all come to Port Moresby, and people are sleeping on the floor at POMJET. Okay. Everybody agrees there should be a new hospital in NCD that looks after NCD people. There should be a new hospital in Central Province that looks after Central Province people. But right now, you don't have those two hospitals. Now, if NCD had a block grant, and if Central had a block grant, and they decided that these two hospitals are their priority,
That's right.
then these two provinces would fund them themselves. The standards would come from the Department of Health, but the two provinces would take responsibility to deliver those important infrastructure for their people. And the same example could be said of roads, bridges, every other thing, schools. Every province would then start taking care of the assets, public assets that are in
the
their
services,
province.
and the
services. And that's the other thing. And I don't think you and I have discussed this, but I'm looking at the structure of the national budget. Currently, you've got 16.7 billion in recurrent, and about 10.7 billion in PIP. Now, I see that PIP sort of growing astronomically.
Very fast rate.
And I see almost, the recurrent budget is kind of halted.
Move.
Now, when we talk about services are paid for in your recurrent side, not so much in your PIP. So, would you agree that for us, one of the first things we should do is review the budget and beef up the services side?
Yes. And then give the responsibility of delivering those services to the provinces.
To the provinces.
They are already on the ground, and they know what the issues on the ground better than anyone. Somebody who's parked in Port Moresby trying to solve a problem in Sepik or in Manus or somewhere.
Oh, in Mendi.
Mendi. And right now, the funding that's going through, people are spending in Waigani and in Port Moresby, and that money is allocated for services in the provinces. It's not reaching our people. So I think this block grant idea is something that, I think the National Economic and Fiscal Commission recommended.
They did.
They recommended, one of the strong recommendations when they did the review, I think, for the funding arrangements between provinces and the national government. There was a recommendation that block grants, it was per head or per population, but on that basis to be delivered to the provinces, and provinces take ownership.
Yep.
But just the second point is that when you look at it in Australia, the states, even though there are 5 or 6 states and territories in Australia, the block funding that we are talking about is similar what is now already
They're already
practice.
doing it. Australia is doing
in
it.
Australia or in the United States or in the UK or
In China.
in China, for instance.
They're all doing it.
This is not something that's new to PNG.
No.
It's already happening around the global community, and I think can be easily replicated here, but solving some of the key issues that we have now. Now, power and the blackout is one thing, but also the same can be said of law and order issues.
Exactly. And maybe it's time we talked about law and order.
But you look at it where now provinces are not able to have the manpower to maintain law and order themselves in key areas. Whereas now we're just shifting policemen from one part of the province to the other aimlessly. You got trouble upside, so you're going to put them just to trouble out.
Yes.
Without knowing what is the things that are driving these problems in the society where there's big trouble fights and big guns that have been used. But if the powers are given to the provinces, say the provincial police commander reports to the governor. Governor provides funding support and monetary support for them to run around and deliver services like fuel and maintaining cars and making sure that they are serviced properly and they're not being abused. Those kind of monitoring is not done. They're trying to do it from Konedobu, and it's impossible.
I agree. I mean, in ECB, what I've been trying to do, and we recognize this issue very early on. Policemen are asking for fuel so they can go and attend to a complaint. They're asking for flex so they can make phone calls and coordinate. Police don't even have laptops, or they don't have ink for the printer, or sometimes no attire block car. So, they're faced with all these issues. And I've had 4 different PPCs, and each PPC has told me the same thing. So around 2 or 3 years ago, the provincial government began to put in a line item in our budget to fund police. So, we're just beginning to get some results now, because it took a while for the public servants to sort of work with the police and, all this nonsense that goes on between public servants. But anyway, we've resolved them. And so now police are getting the funding that they need.
Yes.
So they don't go running around asking people for fuel money or flex money or any of these kind of things. People are trying to manage him so that, and here's the thing. See, right now the PPC in Sepik, if he wants to, and they give him about 90,000 kina a year to spend. And for that 90,000 kina a year, he has to cover 6 districts, and the province is 43,000 square kilometers. It's huge.
It's impossible.
Well, it's bigger than Israel, right? And this guy has to cover it with 90,000 kina. Anyway, provincial government has given him about 1.3 million now, so that's the current budget. And it's not even enough. They need more, but as we get more money, we can sort of keep funding the police. However, if he wanted to buy something previously, if he wanted to buy tires for the car, or, buy a new car, or buy guns or bullets or uniforms or boots or whatever, he has to come to Waigani. I mean, not Waigani, but Konidobo.
Yeah.
And he has to put in a requisition, and he's got to wait, and they'll have to find the money, and he might not even get what he wants.
No.
So the police in my province suffer. But it's the same story with police from every other province. Now, when we started giving him the money from the provincial budget, not from the police budget, this is coming from the province, the guy is now able to better service the needs of the policemen. He buys them laptops, paper, printer, ink, whatever, tires, coffee, tea, sugar, so they can operate as a professional police force. And private police below me, or I don't even have to ring the PPC and say, PPC, go arrest him, Islamah. They're doing it themselves because they're being empowered.
Empowered, probably, yeah.
Now, if you look at police all around the country, they are being disempowered right now. So, how do they operate? I mean, if police minister or PM is going to ring up the commissioner and give him instructions all the time, we've got a problem as a country. It's supposed to be an independent office.
That's right.
Anyway, so I'm always thinking now. Someone asked about the fuel thing. Did we discuss the fuel thing?
Yeah, the fuel crisis is a very serious problem in the country. And someone asked about how is Puma not able to continue supply and having difficulty managing the issues with the Bank of Papua New Guinea. Yes, those issues with the bank and of course Puma has been going on for a while. Also, the Bank of Papua New Guinea has lodged some very serious complaints and some serious allegations against Puma with the police commissioner and his office and the police. They obviously seem to have done nothing to addressing those issues. So these are things that has built up to the fact that now we have a very huge fuel crisis in the country, where many people in the industry, like transport and civil aviation industry, are not able to have access to fuel on time, that enough supply to keep their businesses going, and it's having a very strong negative impact onto the performance of the economy in our country. But we're also hearing that from Puma and their owners back in I think Sweden or somewhere, a company called Trafigura, which is a commodity trading company, has got some serious issues with the United States government for bringing some fuel from suppliers that are not being accepted by United States and other Western countries. So these are things that are going to play out for a long term. It's not going to be the result tomorrow. But I think there's some of the information that is floating around about individuals trying to take over that market and trying to interfere with the supply lines being consistent and stable. It's of great concern to the nation. We have to be very careful that one or two individuals are not taking advantage of the situation we are in, and that they control the fuel supply market in the country. It must be free and fair and open, and those who are in the industry must not be victimized to advantage one or two other individuals going forward. So I think fuel crisis is a huge problem that will add on to the problem that we have with the shortage of supply of energy in the country and power. I fear that it'll just continue to build on the challenges we have.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, obviously, you've got some players already in the industry. You've got Islands Petroleum, ExxonMobil, and a few others. So there's potential for local solutions. But on top of that, one of the questions that I think many of us are asking is how come KPHL is not involved? And Kumul Petroleum Holdings is, of course, the petroleum company of the country, and you would expect that they would be leading
discussions on this.
These discussions, but they've been left out for whatever reason. I don't know. You probably don't know either.
Yeah.
But anyway, the thing is, it needs a solution, and we, given some of the things that Peter was just talking about, and that I'm familiar with, we're all familiar with, what's missing is a resolution. And it shouldn't be that difficult to resolve.
No.
It's a commercial issue. There could be legal implications. But if it's a commercial issue, there are private sector players who can come in and resolve it very quickly. If Puma is unable to, for whatever reason.
Yeah. Well, there are other players, as you say, Exxon and Islands Petroleum and few other smaller fuel providers in the country are able to continue to be a source of fuel for our nation's consumption. I think they should be encouraged rather than discouraged and having to favorites in the industry that they are pushing and allowing them to enter the market.
But I mean, that's the other thing. Going back to our very first discussion on investor confidence. See, when a government starts picking and choosing who its favorite should be and who should invest where, and it's not a level playing field, then the business sector will talk amongst themselves, and that affects investor confidence. Exactly what you and I have been talking about. So a government should not be playing favorites with whoever. It should really be the referee and the regulator, and allow the businesses to sort of come in there and have an equal playing field, I think.
Yeah, I think if we can't continue to have this issue being one of the many challenges that we will continue to face over the next few years. Like in the last 3 or 4 years, the fuel issue has been constantly in the press and constantly in our face, but we are not willing to make the hard decisions.
And it's unresolved.
And it's unresolved.
And that's the thing. I mean, I wonder to myself, this government is faced with so many crises. Well, the country is faced with so many crises, which the government is supposed to resolve. Because it is not resolving any single one of them, all of them remain as a crisis.
Precisely.
So at some point, government or someone within government, whether it's the PM or his ministers or whoever, they need to bite the bullet and say, okay, let's solve this one. Remove it from the list. So right now on the list, you've got law and order problems, you've got power problems, you've got fuel problems, you've got cost of living problems, you've got runaway CPI increases due to inflation. Forex, the list goes on. So if the list is like there's 10 things there, it would be nice to strike it off and say, okay, we're down to 9, strike another one off, we're down to 8. So eventually you end up with nothing. All of the issues are resolved. And someone just said, shortage of medicines and of course shortage of
health workers.
Yeah. So he's right. At what point do we start saying, all right, can we fix the vaccine issue? Give them enough money, they buy the vaccines and the medicines, put them in the hospital. That could be easily solved. We just change the budget. The issue of Black Wednesday, all the businesses lost their stock, shops burned down, and we had the chairman of CPL.
CPL, yeah.
CPL. Sam Mahesh came out and said the promise help from the government never arrived. So all the business only kisim hevin and mibla talk promises and mibla by government by Kamalbim, that hasn't been done. So what happens now? I mean, here's another issue. We've made a promise to the to the business community that the government would step in and help resolve these issues. Supporting all what them supply funding never happened. So again, all of these things are piling up, and at some point it'd be nice to have a clean sheet and say there's nothing left there.
Nobody forced them to make the commitment. Now it's seen as one of those other additional lies that we continue to tell our people and our investors in the country. And when governments make commitments, they must honor it.
Yes.
You don't just go and make commitments because people have confidence in you in coming good with your commitments. And we seem to have a habit now of working one blood Toktok na narwa side by working walk.
I'm not.
And these are employing thousands and thousands of Papua New Guineans.
Yes.
Who survive on their pay to survive and look after their family. And we are not taking it seriously. As our government must know that their decisions and their actions have got a ripple effect onto others in the society, especially very vulnerable Papua New Guineans who are depending on fortnightly salaries to survive. So, and one blah blah is a kind of talk where you work in Toktok nothing.
Yeah, I think we need to make commitments that we can keep.
And one of the commitments you talked about is listen, we'll create 1 million jobs.
Oh, that's a big one.
I mean, everybody in the country is looking for work. Amas thousand man Marigo, Stanley Hotel, Oligo Narbla, Abu advertisement, Lamana Hotel, Sambla walking about. You can see the desperation among our people looking for work. And when we have a government just come and send up the son, announcement also, yes, we will do 1 million jobs. The jobs are already that can be created very easily, as we said, about forestry, fisheries, agriculture, tourism. Tourism, when you get the law and order right, people will come, they will live in hotels and guest houses and travel up and down the road and airlines. And that creates jobs opportunities for Papua New Guineans right across. But it's not giving one plan law developing modesla. Toktok na toko, suppose you want youth and you know got work, calling me. These are not practical things. You mean Toktok giving belly sin, a sweet Toktok law manberry.
Yeah.
But practically you need to go and develop the industry like agriculture. You have to, what sort of support do you have to give?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, okay, to come out and make a commitment of 1 million jobs, there's nothing wrong with the commitment.
No.
I think it's a commitment that any government should make.
Yeah,
but then they got to move beyond that.
You got to make with a plan.
With a plan and say, all right, we're going to get the jobs in this sector. They're going to be based in wherever.
Yeah.
So actually have some numbers so the young people can say, all right, the jobs are in Ley, or the jobs are in Hagen, or the jobs are in Mosby, or Tain Rabaul, or Wiwek, like where are the jobs? And so we're not able to do that. And you just throw them the solom the big number 1 million jobs, and that's the end of it. And Toktok sol stop on that now. Take a blame underneath and know that. And then to sort of, when I asked him the question, for him to go and change the definition of jobs and say, no, look, the jobs that we want are going to be, jobs in the village, working on the land or doing. And those are things we're already doing. All work lo place now, work lo ground now, planning
working garden or
working
something.
garden, planning cocoa, coffee, all these things, we're already doing that. I think the jobs that Papua New Guineans are looking for are the jobs where I guess we've been training them for. I mean, skilled work. And if they're not here, I mean, there's no shame in saying, look, all right, well, why don't we have a program where if you have a qualification in nursing, we're gonna give you a 6-month bridging program where you are certified as a caregiver with your nursing qualification. So you can go and get a job in Australia or Japan or somewhere else. So let's not be too proud, especially you got plenty heavy stuff. You humbly look, there's nothing wrong with upskilling our people so that they can go and work somewhere else. And then later on, so you have a long-term plan. Short-term plan, long-term plan, well, hopefully they'll go and work and come back, and then they can come and rebuild their life here in PNG. But just to simply say that we've got 1 million jobs for you and we don't even know where they are, I don't think that's fair on Papua New Guineans.
And some programs like they announced, like agricultural subsidy.
Yeah.
Or announcement of subsidy stops also money in the go inside. They're supporting the supply blow, supporting Orlando, transferring goods from rural communities into the markets.
To be honest with you, I was there when they had that discussion, and I advised against doing a subsidy. For example, one of the things that I'm doing now in Sepik this year, because of the support we've given to Orlando Cocoa, we're now subsidizing fertilizer, for instance, because obviously as cocoa starts to produce MDY, you're not replanting, so you start to lose the what do you call it, nutrients in the soil. So we got to return that. So this year, ECP provincial government has put together a fertilizer subsidy program. So people go out and subsidizing fertilizer, so all farmer they just pay half the price. So in essence, we are giving help back to the farmer. So I can go and use him fertilizer and maintain him or increase in production. So I actually said to the Prime Minister and the Minister for Agriculture, John Simon, the Honourable John Simon, look, why don't you guys look at some of these programs like supporting farmers with tools, or so you reduce the cost of the tools, you reduce the cost of the fertilizer or something, so they do get a benefit.
And unlocking the land is always a concern in PNG, because most of our land is owned by customary land.
Exactly.
So we've been always talking about this customary registration of land, where they can lease the land out. If people are not wanting to do farming themselves, they can still lease their land out
to someone else without losing
the ownership.
Yeah.
Without losing the ownership.
I mean, that's the thing that Honourable Keith Iduhu has been really passionate about, is taking another look at the way we treat land and the way we register land, and perhaps bringing in a whole new legislation that does that. And he's keen on the Fijian way of registering land titles.
And I think the Fijians have got this mechanism where they can register customary group ownership of land.
So I don't know why we haven't.
Why we cannot do it? It's certainly because Fiji has got a very big agricultural sector.
Yes.
Apart from tourism,
they've
got a very big agricultural sector. So, well, those are some of the issues that we wanted to discuss. The other one was about what are our views on some of this major resource project. We talked about Papua LNG already.
Yes.
And Papua LNG, the government needs to come out and be honest that, just like Pogra, it just mucked around and pulling Toktok Wantaim, wasting time. This thing's delayed 5 years. So we don't know how far it's going to go. But from my point of view, I think that we've missed the train a little bit. I think we've got a market blow, LNG gas and also something by workload be readily available as we expected. If we had started construction 5 years ago and the products now available, you can be able to sell it.
Yes.
But unlike the PNG LNG, now we had a marketing team that went to Japan and China and Taiwan to help the developer make the sale. We had a government-to-government engagement, and we were able to secure those markets and the buyers. In this instance, none of that has happened, even after 5 years.
I mean, in business, as we both know, there's a window of opportunity, and so you've got to do things within that window, because once the demand is there, and if you don't satisfy that window, then that demand goes to somewhere else. So if you're dealing with gas, for example, they can buy the gas from PNG, they can buy it from somewhere else. So if you don't secure those forward contracts, then it's very difficult for you to secure the funding at the back end for you to then go in and do the investment so that you do get the gas. So for a lot of these businesses, and I think that's what happened for the PNG LNG, the sales agreements were kind of agreed to at around the same time that the front-end engineering and design was going on.
If you don't have the market, you don't have a product to sell.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, we will have some difficulties. So we just hope that there is a better outcome around the Papua LNG. But one other major project that's still going on in public debate is the Pogra deal. I'm told that the last pouring of gold that happened in Pogra was not. It's not from the actually main mining.
From new ore.
Yeah, it is in an open cut area that they picked up, and it's a low grade that was being melted and processed. But I think And the full story has not been told yet. We are also looking for the project agreements to be tabled because Marape claims that he's done one of the world's best gold development deals for PNG. So we'd like to know that. But from what we know, what we are told is that the real benefits to Papua New Guineans will not come until after 10 years.
Well, I mean, that's the other thing. When PNG LNG was done, and I'm going to use that as a yardstick, that was one of our, I guess, the biggest project PNG ever got over the line. One of the things that was presented to Parliament is the term sheet. And let me explain the term sheet. The term sheet basically spells out, so Papua New Guineans understand, like what are the streams of benefits going to both the developer and the country, like from taxes and all these things. It actually breaks down, so you can actually see in numbers what the developer is going to get, what the landowner is going to get, and what the country is going to get, government is going to get on behalf of the country. So these things were presented on the floor of Parliament.
Yeah. Yes.
Now, for Pogra, we haven't seen it.
Yes.
We haven't seen a term sheet on the floor, and we haven't seen one for Papua LNG either, even though they said those are really good deals.
Yes.
And I think Wafi Kolpo also, we haven't seen. So the term sheets have not been presented on the floor of Parliament. So this is the thing. We don't really know, aside from what they're saying.
They're saying, but nothing has been tabled yet.
Nothing
so,
has been tabled.
As soon as we have the benefit of those documents, when they're tabled at some stage, we can be able to give you a bit better details out of the Pogara deal. But from the other deal is Wafi Golpu. I think that's gone really quiet now, and there's not even a mention of this project in any of the debates in Parliament or any of the discussions that in the resource sector. I think that particular one is having difficulties moving forward as well.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. The most important thing is for us to see the term sheet. And we haven't, even for Wafi Golpu. And I'm not sure why that is, because if we use PNG LNG as a yardstick, that term sheet was presented on the floor of Parliament.
Yes.
We haven't seen one for the new Pogara, we haven't seen one for Papua LNG, we haven't seen one for Wafi Golpu.
Yeah. And even for Pinyang, we haven't seen.
Oh, Pinyang too.
Pinyang, I hear that they've done a deal with ExxonMobil, but those terms of those deals have not come out yet. And my fear is that they've included Pinyang, which is supposed to be a new field, with the existing PNG LNG project, meaning that any opportunity for us to renegotiate better terms has been now diluted.
Nullified.
Okay. And that'll be a great pity for the nation. I don't think that gives us the opportunity to get more benefits out of that. Given that we have now almost fully paid off the PNG LNG financing for that project's almost finished, I'm told.
Well, again, we can't really make an assessment without looking at the term sheet. We haven't seen the term sheet, so we're just speculating. Some of them are asking about the VONG.
Yeah.
All right, so maybe we should make a comment about that.
Yeah.
With the vote of no confidence, we think that and from the advice from our lawyers, that we've done everything correctly, and we still don't understand what the private business committee means by saying that someone's signature was forged. In fact, everyone that's signed off on the motion on the 20th have now gone and signed statutory declarations, all 12 of them, to say, look,
this is my signature.
This is my signature. So we're still trying to understand what they mean by it not being complete, because all of the requirements by the Constitution for what is a proper vote of no confidence motion has actually been fulfilled by us as the opposition.
Yes.
Add something to that?
Yeah, no, very much so. The private business committee, which is supposed to be clearing these issues just as a routine, has decided to go in there and try and ask technical questions about the motion itself, and coming up with excuses, trying to delay the motion to be put on notice paper so the Parliament can discuss and debate it. Firstly, I don't see why Marape is panicking when he says that he's got 84 plus members. We're only about 20 of us in opposition. We are challenging him into some of the statements that he has made and correcting him and with most of the lies that he has been told the nation. We are holding him to account for that, which is the responsibility of the opposition. And one of the key functions of any opposition is to challenge the government, whether it be through a vote of no confidence or through debates or through voted on bills on the floor of parliament. And we are fulfilling that role as guaranteed by the Constitution. 12 of us have signed to put a motion nominating Allan to be as our nominee for the alternate prime minister for our country, and that needs to be put on notice paper and we take a vote. That's as simple as that. If Marape thinks that he's got confidence of 84 people, all he had to do, like if they do it in Australia, I'll give you an example. If the leader of the Liberal Party or Labour Party today, Albanese in Australia, if one or two members of the Labour Party said that they want to challenge him for the leadership, he will have to put that on the table and go to a caucus room and take a vote. That goes for the Liberal Party as well. So he can be defeated by one vote or two votes or three votes, but he has to put the leadership because he's been challenged by one person. They call it spill in Australia.
Leadership
spill. That happens in UK, that happens in Canada, in most of the other countries where we have the Westminster style government. They don't go to the floor of parliament and say, vote for me because I'm still prime minister and I still got a lot of powers over you, so I'm forcing you to vote for me. So if he really wants to test his confidence, he should put his leadership on the table in the caucus meeting. That's one way of doing it. Or he resigns and comes back and stands for prime minister's position on the floor of parliament. Otherwise, he has to entertain the motion that is on the floor now. He cannot continuously give excuses. Now, we will have no choice after the next motion is gone through, but we have to utilize the Supreme Court decision that's already in place. We might have no choice, but we have to go to court to hold the private members, committee members, to be held accountable for their decisions, and they have to go and tell the Supreme Court why they are continuously frustrating and rejecting the motion. So listen, we've got a few months to work, next 2 months to work on this motion. We'll work hard and we'll try and continue to refine some of our arguments about our policies and things, and I think we're starting to develop a very good team in opposition.
Oh, absolutely. I think the most important thing that we bring is that, well, one, the private sector can trust us. We're not going to go changing the rules in the middle. That's one key thing that I think we have that the current government doesn't have. And so returning that confidence in I guess, having stable policies and not changing them on the run. I think that's one thing. The other thing also is the fact that, you know, we want to really take a look at these structural issues between provinces and the national government. So we end up with efficient flow of services. Right now, the design is inefficient. And the other thing is to try to restore the confidence of the people in our government system. So for example, like, there's no need for us to frustrate a vote of no confidence. And I want to make this statement that if the job comes to myself and my team, then if there's going to be a vote of no confidence in 18 months, we're not going to frustrate it. And it's like I'm all stupid person. People blame me, looking, going all tired finish, I think. So Mibla or member of parliament, Mibla must start working on good or something. It's plenty something Mibla making, I think we're losing the confidence of the people. You know, sample line, how old winning election 2 years, you miss out and memo man sana upon the gun, all man just sit down, one man fill him, you know, 10,000 ballot paper, na put him going check, na, am gonna win now. So people around the country are losing trust in the government system, they're losing trust in leadership, they're losing trust in police and all these agencies. So, I mean, no good la tumasya. And so we've got to, as leaders, we've got to be conscious of that, and we've got to start restoring the confidence of the public in a system of government. And then by doing so, private sector and everyone else, they'll also regain their confidence. I think, in my mind, this is the thing that we bring. Is a return to being honest. So something is wrong, well, we're not going to defend it, but talk is wrong. If, for example, the police are not able to deploy the fraud squad, well, there's a reason for that. All cutting funding the fraud squad. Well, our government is going to make sure that the fraud squad is properly funded. The Auditor General's office is properly funded, not cutting funding blow, ombudsman, so that they can do their job. You see, in a democracy, it cannot work if the check and balances are not working. So one of the reasons why our country is not working well is that there's no check and balance. I mean, even inside law, parliament, but you look at a member like Ronald opposition or joining government. Why are they all running away? Simple reason. So once you start the opposition, government by make sure funding or district blue, province blue, come. So we're undermining democracy right there on the floor. It's an uneven relationship. There's hardly any funding for the opposition to operate, for example. So I mean, that's one of the things that we've discussed and said, look, if we take over government, when we take over government, we are going to make sure that we strengthen the opposition, that we strengthen the parliament, so that there is balance. There's a check and a balance, so that country can work good, so people can have confidence in the country. That's the thing that we've been lacking, and I think we wanted to make that point. So plan is something where people behave badly as members of parliament. We're behaving badly, we're doing all the wrong things, and the public is losing trust in us as leaders, and they're losing trust in the system of government. Well, it's now upon our shoulders to restore that trust that people bagat inside of government.
I mean, offices like the Ombudsman Commission is very vital in all leaders to account for their decisions and their actions. And over the last 48 years, we've seen a gradual decline of the sort of people that we need to appoint to these positions, make sure that they do their jobs independently and the right funding goes into them. And I think, when we have the Commissioner for Police, Defense Force Commander, the Ombudsman Commission, and ICAC, and all this Auditor General, all these offices have now been undermined, and as a result, they're not functioning. And I think it's important for any government.
Yeah.
The first responsibility is to strengthen these institutions.
We must.
And we have to do that. And I know that there's been a lot of issues about corruption in the country, and some of us have gone through courts, but that's the right way to do it. Those who have been accused must go and get it cleared through the courts. They have to go and get it arrested. There's nothing wrong with being arrested in this country, and to clear yourself and get yourself held to be accountable to some of the decisions and actions that we have taken, either as leaders or in our own personal lives. So I think you can be rest assured. There's no stopping trying to protect anybody in public office about the way in which their investigations, and we are very concerned that the Police Commissioner's office has been influenced to stop and start investigations that are supposed to be done independently by rank and file officers, and as a result, you will continuously undermine the institutions that are supposed to be working independently. And we've expressed that. I think the opposition leader and many of our members have had a few press conferences around some of the cases that are before us. Everybody is accountable, and one law should apply to everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what we promote in our team.
I think that's critical, because people want to see that the law is applied equally to everyone, regardless of your position. And we're not really seeing that, because right now it's selective. And, it's been happening for a while. So this is one of the reasons why we've said, look, we want to do a hard reset and say, Mipla, stop here. From here onwards, let's change the way we are doing things. And so if the police have been selectively prosecuting certain people and not touching other people, well, this is the time for them to do a hard reset, come out. There's a pending list there of all the people that you need to arrest them all, charge them all in front of the court, and make sure it's the court that has the power to say you are guilty or innocent. But it's up to the police to put people in front of the judge. And that's where we've got to make sure that whatever's been happening, it must stop. And so this is what we are talking about now. And I think the other thing also is that as leaders, if we've done something wrong at some point in the past, we should be man enough to say, all right, me wrong, sorry, but we're going to do it better this way going forward. I think there's also too much back passing, and not accepting responsibility for the things we aren't doing right. Like, for example, we talked at length about the fuel issue. If the current government does not have a fix, I mean, non straighten, then them should come on straight and talk, sorry, me play no sawe how to straighten this la problem. Almost talk out and talk straight. I think that's the key thing that's missing. With law and order, if they're not able to resolve it quickly or to adopt the things that will resolve it quickly, then also kira na talk, sorry, me play no sawe lo ensablo desla.
Yes, yes.
So just being honest about what they can and cannot do is also something that's missing. And I think we all need that. I mean, you may be harim all by rehashing same something that all same. You know, we're doing this, we're doing that, but the crisis is still there. The crisis is not being solved. So what do? Do we accept that, all right, you're not trying yet? And here's the point. We're not saying that people are not working hard, people are not spending 24 hours a day working on solving the fuel issue or the law and order issue or whatever other issue you may get like a crisis, power problem. We're not saying people are not working hard. They probably are. People are probably spending 24 hours a day, almost sleep to all walk, but the solution is not coming. So obviously something needs to change in order for the solution to come. And if people, I mean, the other side is, how long by you may wait? How long do we want to wait for these problems to be solved?
Yes.
Do we want to wait another 3 years, another 10 years? How long?
The problems are real.
Exactly. The problems are here now, and we're not fixing them. The government is not fixing them.
And no government is perfect. Everybody has got issues that they have to manage, and the circumstances may have been different. But you can't keep on saying, "Oh, this is because of what has happened today, and this is what has happened yesterday." But you need to find the solutions today.
Yes.
And solutions about getting the results and the outcomes that our people expect from any government, doesn't matter whichever government. And no government is going to be perfect. If we are looking for a perfect government, we have to wait until we go and join the maker. But right now we have to live with the reality of what's happening on the ground here. And I think in our team in opposition and with the young leaders who are now taking on the leadership role in the country, we are encouraged by the provocative thinking that is happening behind the scenes, where there is frank talking and there is no coloring of any of the issues that we want to get it out there. I think we are faced with really big major challenges for the first time in the country, and I think the country expects all the leaders to stand up together.
Yeah.
We may not have all the solutions, and we know that Marape government does not have all the solutions. But we can't continue to lie our way through life. Yeah. We need to take stock of the issues and try and address them frankly.
Own them.
Yeah,
own
and own them.
Yeah. And that's the thing. We're not, the thing is, for me, Mibla by facing problem also solo, is there some point where it's going to stop? And that's what we're saying. And if we can't come up with the answers, but you still stop it and strong him, sit down yet, or I mean, I was in government. Me trying, me sa Toktok, me sa cross inside law. Now I think government WhatsApp is very quiet because there's people like myself, Gary Jufa, Governor Mutuvel, me plus I can't complain, Governor Ipatas. We talk about all these things and there's no solutions. So that's the thing. We want to be able to get into a position where we can say, here is a solution. And if it's the wrong solution, I'm all right, piano administrative, but here's the solution that we think is the best one now for Papua New Guinea. And because I don't think our people can be subjected to all of this stress, close to. because people are feeling it. People are hating.
Yeah.
And so where does it stop? If it doesn't stop, then what's going to happen? Do we wait for more riots like we've seen in Port Moresby? We don't want that.
Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that.
But one last thing, sorry, Governor, you know, we're almost coming to the end of our talk. But the work that you did through your committee, the voting system in the country, you know, because of the past elections and especially the last elections, we saw the sort of the elections, how it was conducted and the level of massive compromising of the outcomes of the elections was seen widely across the country, unprecedented. And as a result, there's been a public demand for changing the voting way of voting and the system of voting, and biometric and the other suggestions are there in public debates at the moment. But the work that your committee did, I think, you know, one thing before 2027 is that we must not lose focus on that particular issue, because the sort of leaders we get into Parliament is a reflection of how we manage the country.
Yes.
If we don't get the leaders who care about the people and care about the country, we will get a mediocre sort of a style of managing the affairs of the country. And I think some of the outcomes that we are seeing today is as a result of that kind of election process that we've just been through. So, you know, what are your comments on some of the work that the committee has done so far?
Well, we came up with a report that we presented to Parliament with 78 recommendations. Just to explain how we arrived at that, a lot of the writing of that report was actually done as part of the consultations, but also NRI was involved. And then, of course, Transparency International came in as well, and the Institute for National Affairs. So 3 very credible institutions wrote the report. Me no go inside na make him sample amendment or change him sample recommendations or no that. Mipla just accept him that's all recommendations below. There's a triple group, because these are groups that are interested in Papua New Guinea. They don't represent one political party or political thinking or no that. Only walking walks for Papua New Guinea. So those 78 recommendations were accepted by the Parliament and adopted. So now what's going to happen next is some of the work that needs to go in. Like, for example, biometric registration of voters. So there's a recommendation in there to sort of deal with that. And so we, in fact, last week we had a visit from one of these groups that came in from Australia to help us with things. When I say help us, Electoral Commission, help him Electoral Commission. So only come in pennies. They're looking at bringing their own funding to come in and help us. Not just us, the other Pacific Island countries have similar things, but similar issues. But our issues are obviously in some parts of the country, worse than in others. So it will look at everything, but the advice that we've got, a lot of people are saying, let's go to biometric voting quickly. You've all seen how difficult it is to get everybody NID cards. We've been doing NID now for what, how many years?
10 years almost.
10 years now. So there's a bit of a struggle to get the database to be able to print the cards and all of that. So we acknowledge that there's going to be some difficulty in having the infrastructure to back up all of that work. So, but at the same time, some work needs to be done. So what we're recommending is that the very first thing is that normally you miss a walk-in voter registration 1 year before the elections. This year, there's supposed to be some money being put down. So people are walking voter roll here. We start to update it this year. In places like Australia, they update their voter roll once a month. People are updating once every 5 years.
Yes, yeah.
So these are some of the changes that we're bringing in. That is not Toktok Wantaim. We want to get to a point where we are updating monthly.
Monthly, yeah.
But for now, we're saying let's do it once every year. So that by the time you get to
5 years,
5 years, you've already been updating your electoral roll. Okay. So that's probably based on the advice we've received from, say, the people in Australia, especially the Australian Electoral Commission. They're saying fixing your electoral roll will help to fix a lot of your problems. So get that one right first. So there's going to be some focus there, and there are some quick fixes we can do. One of them is the electoral roll. Okay, we were hoping that we would trial some of these things in the local level government elections, but that's not going to happen because that election is only 6 months away now. So, but we are asking also for a permanent parliamentary committee, and we were hoping that those changes would come through. And when they come through, the permanent parliamentary committee will take charge of preparations for the election. So it will start doing things like bringing in the defense force, police force, all the security apparatus. If we have to bring in all of the different agencies, provinces, so that the readiness for the elections is actually, the work starts now, this year. We don't wait until 2027, we start now. So that's based on the recommendations from everyone that we've consulted. We need to start the work earlier. And then if we can, we have to hopefully get to a point where we can do biometric voting. But that point is probably going to be 10 years away. It's not going to be available in 2027. Fiji tried a biometric voting system, I think, in the last election.
Yes.
And they had big problems with it. Fiji is obviously a small country. They're smaller than my province. And so, you don't want to deploy a new system that no one's tried before across a country the size of Papua New Guinea, given the problems that we have with elections. Because once something go wrong, and our whole elections are going to go out the window. So the advice coming from the experts who do elections, they're saying, if you're going to make changes, change some of the important things, don't change the whole thing quickly. Because so something go wrong and something go. So we're going to go through this in a methodical, sustainable and diligent way. So everything is properly tested. The last thing we need is a failed election in 2027.
The main thing is, the principle of one man, one vote
must be respected,
and that everybody has a chance to be able to participate in that process. It's only once every 5 years, but in many elections where that right is taken away from you, each individual voter, this is something that we need to correct. People must have their say, and then we all leaders must respect the wishes of the people. So, well, Governor, we're almost towards the end of our time today. 1.5 hours, just went like that. It doesn't take that long, but thank you very much for joining us here today. And I know many of our viewers and participants all around the country and everywhere else. Many of your questions coming through, we will go through each one of them and try and summarize and answer as many as we can. But thank you once again, Governor, for joining us.
It's my pleasure, and thank you to your regular viewers.
Yeah, we'll try and do one more very soon. A lot of things happening in the country over the next 2 months, so I'm sure there'll be an opportune time for us to discuss. But again, thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
God bless.
Thank you.